working group to work on these issues. Some of them are with us here today. Jill Hunsaker Ryan, the Executive Director of CDPHE. Will Toor, our Executive Director of the Colorado Energy Office. Shoshana Liu, our Executive Director of CDOT. Dan Gibbs, Executive Director of Department of Natural Resources. And Rick Garcia, the Executive Director of DOLA. Look, this last year has challenged us all. Really brought about changes in all aspects of the way we live. But through it all, in addition to the pandemic response, working to build back our economy stronger, we've continued to work towards the goals that Coloradans elected us to accomplish. The pandemic has exposed cracks in our system and underscored the critical importance of the core issues that Coloradans care about, including protecting the Colorado quality of life for ourselves and for future generations. I announced my candidacy for governor in Pueblo, Colorado, the first city in Colorado to commit to 100% renewable energy at the only solar-run coffee roaster in the country. Back in 2017, I announced our bold plan for Colorado to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2040. But I couldn't even imagine the dramatic climate-related events that have occurred just in the 2 years that I've been in office. Last year, in the span of one fire season, Colorado experienced the 3 largest wildfires in the history of our state, burning hundreds of thousands of acres, displacing families, many not knowing whether their homes were lost or would still be there, some losing everything they had. Really a stark reminder that climate refugees don't only live near the oceans on the coast, but right here in Colorado. We also have a statewide drought, hotter, drier climate, and unfortunately 2020 was not an anomaly. It was in fact a harbinger of the future, really illuminating in bright light the challenges that we face. In Colorado, we rely on climate-dependent jobs and outdoor recreation and farming and ranching for hundreds of thousands of good jobs. And the future of these good jobs in our state depend on bold action today in Colorado, at the national level, and at the international level. We certainly look forward to working with the incoming Biden administration in restoring America's role in climate leadership. Here in Colorado, over the last 2 years, we've been working closely with legislators and stakeholders to take critical steps towards increasing renewable energy and taking bold action on climate. One of my very first acts as governor was to put Colorado on a path to adopting zero-emission vehicle standards and expanding access to electric vehicles in our state. In 2019, we partnered with the General Assembly to pass 14 pieces of climate legislation, including Senate Bill 181, which prioritized the health and safety of Coloradans first and foremost in any oil and gas development considerations. In November, the newly professionalized Colorado Oil and Gas Commission voted unanimously to approve the mission change rulemaking that implements Senate Bill 181, starting their very concrete work to protect the health, safety, and environment, including establishing setbacks, eliminating routine flaring, and requiring equity-focused alternative location analysis. Last year, the Air Quality Control Commission adopted rules requiring the phase-out of the use of HFCs, a very potent greenhouse gas pollutant commonly used in commercial refrigeration and air conditioning. And we're working with utilities that operate over 99% of the fossil-based generation in Colorado to achieve 80% reduction in pollution by 2030. Excel, Black Hill, Tri-State, so many others, some leading the way, Holy Cross 100% by 2030, locking in 80% by 80-30, clean energy plans, working with the PUC and the legislature. And this work is motivated, of course, by the moral imperative we have to protect the health and well-being of our planet for ourselves, for generations to come, but also the desire to win the future, to boost our economy, spur job growth in one of the fastest growing sectors in clean energy, and recognize savings for Coloradans on their electricity bills. Thanks to the work that's already been done, we're already on a path to achieve half of the emission reduction goals for 2025 and 2030. And I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. But as this bold document articulates, that work is not yet done. And that's why today I'm very excited to announce the Colorado Greenhouse Gas Pollution Reduction Roadmap. This document not only talks about the steps we've taken so far, but builds on it with strategies and concrete action items for a clear path forward. In order to reach our goals, we need to build on the progress already achieved with new laws, policies, standards, investments, innovation, and partnerships across the entire economy. We need to continue the swift transition away from costly coal towards low-cost renewable energy and achieve deep reductions in methane emissions from the oil and gas industry. We need to accelerate the transition to electric vehicles and modernize transportation planning and infrastructure to reduce driving and traffic. We need to increase building efficiency and electrification and reduce methane emissions from landfills and wastewater and ag. And we're advancing a number of very specific efforts to reduce pollution in our state. We outlined a very ambitious 2021 legislative agenda we look forward to working with our legislative partners on, including reducing emissions from buildings and gas utilities, funding infrastructure and incentives to transition to zero-emission vehicles and trucks and buses, and a budget proposal that really centers pollution reduction and climate and protects key environmental programs and proposes stimulus and strategic investments to support the work, including $78 million for wildfire relief mitigation and prevention, $40 million in clean energy finance programs, $5 million to support local government leadership on climate action, and the creation of Climate Resilience Office at the Department of Agriculture to continue to support our farmers in soil health and soil resiliency. In addition to the legislative work, the AQCC is poised to undertake its most impactful rulemaking calendar ever on climate, including 4 major climate-related rulemakings in 2021, covering transportation, industrial pollution, oil and gas and buildings, as well as an additional transportation rulemaking for 2022. The Public Utilities Commission will be evaluating a number of emission reduction plans and coal retirement plans through the resource planning process. Our administration sees the 80% reduction by 2030 in pollution from utilities as a floor, not a ceiling, and will engage at the PUC to advocate for the deepest possible reductions that are achievable, while of course maintaining reliability and saving consumers money. We'll be advancing critical land conservation and restoration efforts to enhance carbon sequestration on our natural and working lands, and working to improve recycling and reuse efforts, including end market development. This is by far the most ambitious and expansive planning document that Colorado has ever produced on climate change. And as we pursue this work, we also must ensure that our efforts promote racial equity and economic justice. Closely connected to this roadmap is the development of our state's climate equity framework, which will be released for public comment in the coming month. And with my commitment to a Colorado for all, I'm particularly excited about this work that centers the lives and the health of communities of color and low-income communities. This framework has been developed in close consultation with stakeholders. Elevating community voices will provide the key principles and best practices in outreach and engagement, screening questions to evaluate equity impacts of rules, and a plan for ongoing stakeholder engagement. Look, if this were easy, it would have been done already. But I know that Colorado's future is bright as a clean energy leader. Together, we can protect the Colorado way of life that we all love and cherish for generations to come. Cleaner air, a sustainable way of life, the good green jobs of the future, and saving consumers money. Now, I'm happy to turn it over to Kevin Smith, CEO of the Americas for Lightsource BP. Kevin?
Great. Thanks, Governor. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to thank the governor and his team for inviting us to this significant event and the advancement of the clean energy economy in Colorado. As Governor mentioned, my name is Kevin Smith. I head up Lightsource BP's activities in the U.S. and in the Americas. For those of you that don't know, Lightsource BP, we're a global solar energy company. We're fortunate to have BP, the worldwide integrated energy company, as a 50% strategic partner. And that's helping us advance solar across the U.S. And we're now active in 14 different countries. A little bit about a specific project that we have in Colorado, which is one of our largest projects in the company. Last October, we started construction on our $285 million, what we're calling the Bighorn Solar Project in Pueblo. It's located adjacent to the Evraz Rocky Mountain Steel Mill down there, and it's really a concrete example of how the governor's leadership in creating state-level policy has encouraged renewable energy and reduced and is on the path for reduction of harmful greenhouse gas emissions. These policies are good not only for the health of Coloradans, but with projects like this, it accelerates the renewable energy industry in Colorado. It spurred hundreds of millions of dollars of investments, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail. And in the state, creates good-paying jobs and diversifying Colorado's electricity supply with clean, very cost-competitive and secure energy. So these good policies created by the government, cultivate a strong environment for businesses and continue to grow the economy in Colorado. So the Bighorn Solar Project really is one of our most significant projects worldwide. As I mentioned, it's a $285 million project, fully invested with private investment, and it'll help Colorado reach its goals of 100% renewable energy by 2040. Project started construction last October, as I mentioned, and we're ramping up. It's about a 14-month construction schedule, and we're on our way to our peak construction jobs on site of about 300. The vast majority will be locally hired, and then you can expect that there's at least that many off-site jobs, services supporting the construction activity, as well as accountants and lawyers and all the other things that go into these types of projects. The power is sold to Xcel Energy on a long-term contract, but in reality, that solar power is dedicated to Evraz's steel mill, providing them with cost-competitive power and really securing those 1,000 workers at the Evraz steel mill. In addition, as part of this program, and because they now have locked in long-term cost-competitive power, they're expanding the steel mill, adding in a long rail mill for high-speed trains. So you probably read about that late last year. This facility will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and essentially the equivalent of removing about 90,000 fuel-burning cars from the road each year. And in reality, that's really just the beginning of Lightsource BP in Colorado. We've got projects that we're developing across the state. We're pretty close to announcing another project, probably in the next 30 to 60 days, that we're also going to be building in Pueblo. Probably about a $200 million project. We're finalizing permitting and financing and a few other things. That'd put our investment at an excess of $500 million in Colorado alone. So the governor's greenhouse gas roadmap will bring further opportunities. We're committed to being a long-term partner in investing in Colorado. For the near term, long term, as we see that as a keen solar energy market for us going forward. And in doing so, and in partnering with the governor's office, we're looking at increasing benefits to impacted communities. Early in the stages on the Bighorn Solar Project, we actually worked with a nonprofit group called Grid Alternatives, which offers solar job training to un- and underemployed workers, and so we successfully completed that program in Pueblo. Our main contractor, our general contractor, is a group called McCarthy, who's very active in Colorado, with offices in Denver and throughout the U.S. And we're working closely with McCarthy to make sure we're maximizing the local workers for that facility. And McCarthy is providing additional training to local workers to get them up to speed on installing solar projects. So these programs really help build a strong solar industry, creating direct and indirect jobs, supports energy security for the state, and ultimately lowering electricity costs for everybody. As solar now is truly one of the, if not the lowest priced energy worldwide and certainly in most of the states in the U.S. So we're very happy to be partnering with the governor and his team and to help bring a more sustainable future to Colorado. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kevin. Now let me turn it over to Aram with Colorado Springs Utility. Aram Benyamin.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. I'm Aram Benyamin. I'm the CEO of Colorado Springs Utilities. It is a pleasure to join you today. Thank you, Governor Polis, for inviting me and making me part of this important conversation today. Colorado Springs Utilities is a municipally owned four-service utility serving nearly 500,000 population in the Pikes Peak region. It is an enterprise of the city of Colorado Springs, and the Springs Utilities is governed by our elected city council, serving as also the utility board chaired by council member Jill Gabler. Last summer, our utility board took a very bold action and approved a long-term sustainable energy plan calling for an 80% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. Reducing our emissions and retiring our coal plants were cornerstones of the plan by 2030, closing down the downtown Martin Drake power plant by no later than 2023 and Nixon power plant by no later than December 2029. Community input was critical in our decision-making process. Our city leadership, with the support of our Mayor Sutters and our board members, relied on open and collaborative dialogue for nearly a year and a half that shaped our plans for the future. A key component to reaching this ambitious carbon reduction goal quickly and responsibly, as the government mentioned, will be developing advanced technologies. To accomplish this goal, we have acquired 160-acre campus that will include an electric substation, a sustainable energy mix, a solar array, microgrid design, batteries, storage units, self-driving vehicle infrastructure, electric vehicle charging station, and hydrogen fuel cells. The Advanced Technology Campus will be used as a platform for testing new technologies, pilots, and proof of concept before deploying it in the field. It will consist of multiple labs, including Power System Lab, Cybersecurity Lab, Communication Lab, Advanced Metering Infrastructure, and Electric Vehicle Lab. These labs will be a vital part of our future for the Colorado Springs city functions. Colorado Springs Utilities is excited to continue our partnership with the state and the partner utilities for further reducing emissions and transition to clean, sustainable, reliable energy future. Thank you, Governor Polis, for your leadership. We all feel honored to play a role in charting the path to a clean energy future for Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you, Aram. We'll now go to Senator Winter. Senator Winter?
Hello, and thank you, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you all. And first, I want to extend a deep appreciation to Governor Polis and his administration for the work that has been done on this roadmap and the update to the roadmap. We've been working diligently since the first draft was submitted, asking that there was more specifics, more timelines, more measurable goals, and that we included equity. And what's being released today is a significant step forward in achieving all those goals around specifics and equity and measurable goals. And I'm excited to work hand in hand with the administration to make this a reality. It takes both the legislature and the administration to ensure that we can meet these goals in Colorado as we move forward. And we know that to truly tackle the crisis of climate change, we need a definitive path forward, and this is a step to get to that definitive path forward. And we need to prioritize equity first and foremost. We're committed to that work. Historically disadvantaged communities have borne the brunt of climate change, and their voices must be centered in order for our plans to affect meaningful change. And I look forward to continuing to engage those communities at the table and bring them in as true partners. And as legislators, we look forward to codifying these targets, identifying the roadmap, in individual sectors. For example, I'm working with the administration on making sure that we are meeting our transportation goals and the carbon reduction in transportation. And we also need to ensure that we have the resources and tools necessary to meet these goals. And I look forward to working with this team and continuing to do the work. And it is of the utmost importance that everyone in Colorado has equal protection under these laws, and that we put health and safety first, and that pollution in frontline communities is addressed. I thank the administration and their entire team for all the hard work that they have put in to coming this far, and look forward to continuing the work to make sure that we make this a reality.
Thank you, Senator Winter. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Governor, and great to be with everybody today. Glad to be a part of this announcement and this next big step on our journey as a state to deep decarbonization and improving our environmental performance. And I want to congratulate the governor and his team and Director Toor and the other members of the cabinet that have worked so hard on bringing us this updated roadmap. Lots of great work behind us, lots of great work ahead. And I think that's what you're hearing today, and we'll continue to work hard in the legislature, doing our part to bring this to reality. And I really appreciate the governor's remarks on the 80% in the electricity sector as being a floor, not a ceiling. We know that's a place where we can make great progress. And the electricity sector is really the linchpin of big emission reductions in other sectors like transportation. Because if we don't have a clean grid and we electrify, then we won't be making as much progress as we could have if we had increased the amount of green electricity. And so I think that's a really key part of this entire plan, and something that we're going to continue to work on together in the legislature. Two aspects just to highlight. One, I think we have a huge opportunity in Colorado of improving our transmission grid. Better regionalization, better interties with our neighbors makes it even easier and faster and cheaper to bring more renewables into the power system to achieve those larger goals. And so that's something we'll be working on over the next couple of sessions. Also wanted to highlight, particularly with the interplay of the EVRAZ facility in Pueblo and the great job creation and investment we're seeing there, we've got the opportunity to really accelerate the use of greener, lower emission building products like recycled steel, like improved steel products, greener concrete are all great examples of how we decarbonize the buildings and the roads and the bridges that we're going to need to be successful in Colorado. So it's another great way to reduce emissions and places we can work together and really fine tune this roadmap. So thank you, Governor, for your hard work. And I'll now turn it back over to you.
Thank you. We are joined also by Representative Alex Valdez. Alex?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. Thank you, Governor. This is a really exciting day. This is why I do this job. We are today talking about a bold set of initiatives that the legislature is going to be working to make realities over the coming session. And so as a representative of downtown Denver, and as somebody who deeply cares both in my professional life prior to being here and now about what we're doing to decarbonize, I'm excited to hear about this plan. I'm excited to take part in specifically reducing building footprints, because I think that's an amazing opportunity for the state of Colorado. And when we talk about transportation, electrification, and all these areas, we really need to be looking at how we create equity and how we're addressing creating access within communities that haven't traditionally had access to renewable technologies and electric vehicles. And I think we just have a tremendous opportunity as a state to make that a reality. And so I represent one of the most polluted zip codes in the United States, and I know that they're going to be very happy to hear that we're taking bold steps, and that I know personally, and I speak for a great caucus of legislators here, we're going to undertake putting some teeth behind this plan and deliver real results to the people of Colorado who are just absolutely believers that our environment and our outdoors are a priority. And I think and hope that this is something that we can work on a bipartisan basis and deliver some real results so everybody can enjoy this beautiful state that we call home. Thank you, Governor, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Representative Valdez. And Representative Dominique Jackson has joined us as well, one of our great climate leaders in the legislature. Representative Jackson.
Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So I think all of you know I've been personally invested in seeing some real movement in climate policy in Colorado for, a really long time. And as one of the co-sponsors of House Bill 1261 back in 2019, that's the legislation that led to the creation of this roadmap. I am sincerely and forever grateful for all of the work that the governor's office and everyone has put into creating this plan to get us to our greenhouse gas reduction goals. You have heard this. This is no easy feat at all. So I really want to make sure that you all understand how much I appreciate every single one of you, the citizens of the state, and especially the conservation community, for working with me and everybody on this call and the administration to get to the place that we are at now. But I do have to say, you've heard it from everybody on this call, climate change and its consequences do not affect all communities equally. Communities of color and indigenous communities are often the hardest hit by the devastating effects of the changing climate. As a Black woman whose lived experience includes often being just left out of the conversations that impact my life, I have a visceral understanding that real environmental justice means truly giving voice and individual power to everyone, those who are harmed both directly and indirectly by pollution. So we in the legislature have been working really hard to put equity at the forefront of our state's efforts to reduce pollution. So as we begin to implement and as we continue to perfect the roadmap that is being presented today, I am more than motivated than ever, and I am absolutely thrilled and so excited to keep working with every single solitary one of you, the governor, our state agencies, and of course my colleagues in the legislature, to ensure that our collective vision on climate equity absolutely and truly does become a reality. We are doing unprecedented climate work here in Colorado that is going to protect the health and the livelihoods of people throughout our state. So I'm really grateful for all of the effort and the dedication that has gone into today's announcement. And of course, Governor, I'm really excited to continue our work together. So thank you, guys.
Thank you to our legislative champions. Some of them have votes and committees to go to, so many of them will not be here for the Q&A. If they're able to stick around, they will. We are also joined by John Putnam from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I want to thank him for his work on this document. I also want to thank everybody who provided feedback on the draft. And Senator Winter talked about some of that feedback, how this informed the final version. I am so grateful for the advocacy organizations, communities of color, thoughtful science-based input from researchers, all of the input, just a historic level of public input and participation that informed the evolution of the draft into the final version that we are presenting today. With that, I'm happy to open it up for questions. Our operator will be able to go to questioners now.
Thank you. This is Michael Booth representing the Colorado Sun today. Governor and Senator Winter, if you're still there, wanted to ask about what was done, what changes were made specifically. As you know, there were comments during the comment period from the first draft that it needed to be more specific, needed to be more teeth in it. There needed to be more specific directions for this roadmap. And I'm wondering if you can give some examples of what was done at the draft stage to make it more specific. For example, there's a lot of emphasis on electric vehicles, but is there more than a wish or a hope that dealers will sell more electric vehicles? Is there more teeth to that and more specifics?
Yeah, I believe our senators had to get off the call to go to the floor. I'm going to go to Will Toor in a moment to talk about some of the changes. I would also say a lot of the additions include the addition of the climate equity framework and the process around that, and really centering the voices of disadvantaged communities and people of color in the disproportionate impact of pollution. And I'll go to Will to talk about some of the others.
Thank you very much, Governor. So the updated version of the roadmap has a far more specific action plan that makes clear how we will achieve a 70 million ton reduction by 2030, which is a goal that was established in HB 1261 of a 50% cut to pollution. It spells out both the specific legislative agenda that we will be advancing at the spring of the legislature. It spells out a strategy involving rulemaking at the State Air Quality Control Commission, with rulemakings, as the governor noted, on transportation, buildings, industry, and oil and gas emissions, and spells out the specific rulemaking or regulatory agenda at the Public Utilities Commission. The roadmap shows that we will be able to achieve at least 32 million ton reduction from the greening of the electricity sector between now and between 2005 and 2030. We will have a regulatory action at the State Air Commission to reduce pollution more than 50% from the oil and gas industry, 12 million ton reduction, and has similar strategies in each of the other sectors that give a clear picture of how we are going to achieve those targets.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Chase Woodruff, Colorado Newsline. Governor, there are many advocates in the environmental community who have continued to call for greenhouse gas regulations and limits that are enforceable and carry penalties. How would you respond to that? How, with these goals that are set out, what will the consequences be for polluters if these actions spelled out in this roadmap don't prove to be enough to bring the state in line with these goals?
Well, the clean energy plans that the utilities file, once adopted by PUC, are binding. That is their regulatory agency. They're in different stages, but we now have at least the intent to file from the most recent one, Black Hill, but others are further along and adopted. So those are binding. That is their regulatory entity. On oil and gas, we have the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission, their regular entity, COGCC, as well as AQCC doing the rulemaking in that area. In those two areas, the authority in those entities is able to ensure that the actual reductions in pollutions occur on schedule, because they're subject to those entities. There's additional legislation needed, investment in clean energy. A lot of the work around transportation, make sure we have more charging stations. There was, of course, the recent work by PUC around Excel, but that's part of it. But there's also looking forward to working with the state legislature on modernizing how we fund transportation and making sure that we can reach our ambitious goals around zero emission vehicles. I address those through three, Chase, because those are the three biggest sectors, but we could go into some of the others too, but those are the three largest. Next question. Okay, if there's any final questions, going once, going twice, we'll give you one more chance to opine. And I want to thank the members of my cabinet that are on this call, all those whose hard work went into this very bold and ambitious document that we are very excited to roll up our sleeves and get to work on. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Governor.
That's great. Thanks, Governor.
Thank you.